Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful February so far. The year is flying by. I feel like I'm years behind on all of my 2024 plans. So if you're like me and you're still working on the end of 2023, I hope things are going well. And we'll give it just a minute for everybody to log on today. If you want to drop in the chat where you're logging in from today, I'm always curious to see where we have everyone coming from. I know sometimes we have people coming in from Canada, some from Texas in the past, all over. I know I'm hopping on today from the Lakeland, Florida area. And Shellie, where are you at this time?
Well, I'm from Kansas City, but I'm actually in Phoenix today. So I am enjoying looking outside to some beautiful sunshine.
I know I don't know what Kansas is like this year, but I can't imagine it's quite as sunny.
Well, it's been gray a lot.
I grew up in the Midwest, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the
Sure.
6 months of gray skies before you see the sun again.
Very true. Can be that way. I was ready to get some sunshine, so came here for a few days.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we're a couple minutes past, so we'll go ahead and get started as people hop on. Hopefully they don't miss too much. Hello everyone again. My name is Danny Clough. I'm the channel marketing coordinator on the QGive team. Today I'm joined by Brendan Smith from QGive's business development team, and of course, Ms. Shellie Speer from BDI agency. She's going to be sharing her 5 Ps that make a successful event. I do want to remind everyone that today's session is eligible for 1 continuing education credit for CFRE. So if that applies to you, make sure you're putting that on your tracking sheet. Just a quick reminder for everyone before we get started. Today's session is being recorded, so tomorrow afternoon you'll receive an email with a link to the recording and the slides, as well as a few additional free resources. As we go through today's webinar, if you have any questions, you can drop those into the Q&A area, but you're also free to chat with your peers and Brendan and Shellie and I throughout the webinar in that chat area of Zoom. And then as some of you may have noticed, we had some big news come through on the QGive and this last month. QGive did join the Bloomerang team. We're teaming up to offer a modern giving platform that puts relationships at the heart of fundraising. This combined solution unifies your donors' activities, giving you the power to acquire new donors, cultivate impactful relationships, and maximize the potential of your donor communities. If you have any questions about what this could mean for you and your organization, please reach out. Our team would love to talk more about the capabilities for you. And of course, one of our wonderful partners we have with us today, BDI Agency. They're a member of our partner network. They're a full-service, omni-channel marketing and fundraising agency for nonprofits. So please take a look at all that they have to offer. I'm sure they have some great tips and advice to help you reach your fundraising goals. And then just a quick introduction for myself. My name is Danny. As I mentioned earlier, I joined the QGive team just over a year ago. I spend most of my days working with our partner network to make sure that you guys have all the resources you need to reach your fundraising goals. Those resources largely include our partner network, of course, BDI agency and others who are ready to help you guys and make the most of all of your fundraising needs. And then, of course, the one you're really here to hear from, Shellie Speer, who is coming to us with a plethora of knowledge on fundraising, so much experience and wonderful advice that she's got to share with us today. Shellie is the Senior Vice President for BDI Academy, where she provides direction towards the expansion of services and capabilities that suit specific client needs. She can give you a much better overview of her career and all the wonderful work that she's done, so I'll let her take over now.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it. I appreciate being here. Yes, I'm with BDI. I have been with BDI for about 8 years now, and I head up what's called our Academy program. And Academy is an opportunity for our clients to have resources and training that we wrap our arms around them in ways, always with development, other than the direct mail and the social media and the digital that we do. But I also work with our clients with doing development audits and training with staff and really anything and everything to do with development. So I appreciate today being here to talk a little bit more about events. I am going to stop that and pull myself down so we can start seeing, whoops. There we go, my slides. So today we are going to talk about the 5 P's of event success. I have worked with nonprofits in the area of development for 30 plus years. And I have heard every good, every bad, and every ugly complaint about events. I know that special events are they worth a lot of time, the time and effort? I know you ask yourselves that. So hopefully today, after we've met, you will have more of a feeling of the good. So the first P that we are going to talk about is purpose. Fundraise or friend raise. Events will do both, but you must pick your focus, because when you pick your focus, you can determine your objective. Is your objective to cultivate relationships with a specific group of donor? Is it to acquire new donors, thank donors? Maybe your objective is just to increase awareness for your organization, raise funds for a campaign possibly, or a combination of several of these different areas. And then you have to think about who's your audience. Are you having this event for your major donors, or is it prospective donors? Is it volunteers, prominent community leaders, current or lapsed donors? There's all sorts of groups, obviously, that you would take into account. So who do you want to engage? But once you determine your objectives, you will have the foundation that you can build on. And then next, let's talk about the type of event you might want to have. Community-wide events. Community-wide events are a great way to raise awareness about your organization. So the radiothons, the telethons, the runathons, all the athons that are out there are great ways to engage a broad audience. Motorcycle rallies kind of engage a different audience than maybe the typical donor to your organization. I have a client who has done a motorcycle rally for 30 plus years. And during the first couple of years, the event kind of floundered a bit until they realized that they needed to allow the bikers themselves to run the event, not the organization, but the bikers, because the bikers know their community. They know how to get the other bikers involved, and they knew how to ensure that pledges are gathered. I mean, who would say no to a biker, right? So the mission, this happened to be a rescue mission. This mission, by opening up this community-wide event to the bikers, they were able to open up to a different group of prospects, a different group of people than had ever given to this organization before. Now, golf tournaments, we all know they often attract corporate donors, business people. Auctions, you may have an auction that maybe is more fun. It's a more fun event, and people come and bring their friends. But these community-wide events are a great way to raise awareness about your organization. But again, raising awareness, not that it won't bring in money, but these are a little bit more sometimes focused on on awareness. Another profitable way to run an event is to ask a donor or a company to host the event for you. So I like to share stories. So I'm going to share several client stories while I have you on today. But I have a client who had done a golf event for years and years and years, and it was good. They continually had maybe $50,000 to $60,000 in giving. Some years were up, some years were down. It was very consistent, but it wasn't growing extremely. It kind of had hit that plateau. And so this organization decided one year to ask a restaurant owner within this community if he would be interested in taking on this event for this organization. He had attended the event many times. It was a golfer, loved to golf, would bring some of his vendors and buddies with him. So it seemed like a natural fit. He was excited, said absolutely. What he did was a little different. He was able to talk to his vendors, who then talked to their friends. He got he pulled together the event to so much bigger than it had been before. And now the golf tournament is making over 125,000. So it really grew, and it gave this organization an opportunity to meet new people, to meet new vendors, to meet new opportunities for in-kind donations and financial gifts. Have another client, they have a church that donates to them, but this church also holds a car show every year. They've done it for 15 years, and they love hosting this. And this organization is the recipient, and it brings in about $30,000 for the organization. Obviously, that's not a huge amount of money for some larger nonprofits, but for some of the smaller ones, that's a nice gift. And that organization has nothing that they have to do, but they get to be there. They get to have an opportunity to share. They get to have flyers there. So they have an opportunity to really open up, introducing themselves to another group of potential donors. So these types of events really stretch the circle of influence to people that your organization may not normally reach, while also being kind of less time consuming for your staff, which I'm sure all of you would love that. You know how time consuming events can be. So these are what I would call high profit, high awareness, and low resource from your organization type of events. So let's talk a little bit about testimonial events. There's several of these that I want to talk through. So testimonial events draw donors into what I would say is a more intimate setting where they are introduced to the people, may possibly introduced to the people that you serve or the work that you do. I talk to our clients a lot about that I believe that every organization needs to have 1 to 2 signature events. And these events, what I mean by a signature event is these events set your organization apart from any other organization in your area. And a lot of times they target maybe specific groups of donors that you haven't targeted in the past. But they really are those kind of events that people want to get involved with. They want and are excited about it. A women's tea, a women's event, or a women's giving circle can be a highly successful event. And a women's event brings women of influence and affluence to know more about your organization. So using a model of having women hosting the tables can be incredibly effective. You ask women to fill a table with like-minded women, and that's a great way for you to spread the word about your organization and increase donors. I've seen this work incredibly well with probably over 20 or 25 different organizations that I have worked with. And these type of women's events, I've seen them bring in anywhere from $50,000 upwards to $250,000 to $300,000, depending on the size of the event, obviously, and the number of hostesses. But it's a great way to get new groups of donors giving to you. We also have like men's giving circles or a wild game dinner or maybe a sports auction. Honestly, again, that's just getting a different type of donor involved. But I want you to also think outside the box. when it comes especially to these type of events, these signature events. So many years ago, I went to visit a client in Wyoming, and a very small organization there. And I was doing a development audit, and I said to them, so I got to the part of the audit we were talking about events, and I said, okay, so tell me about your events. And without batting an eye, they said, we do a buffalo hunt. Well, as you can imagine, I was taken aback a little bit by that. I had never known anyone who had done a buffalo hunt, but it was for their area, made the most sense, obviously, but it also was something nobody else was doing. This organization now has moved on and does a fishing tournament as their fundraisers, but no one else in the community is doing this. I have another client that hosts a bird hunting event at an incredibly elite hunting club. So for them, this brings in donors who are very excited about being able to be a part of this club that they've never been able to afford, but they also get to hear about that organization. So there's other obviously types of events like this. One more that I want to share with you, and this is a newer one for one of our clients, and I just love this one. So I have another client that runs a very successful, it's called a coffee trail event, and it's in conjunction with National Coffee Day, which is in late September. And so during this event, a person would purchase a trail map, a coffee trail map, and on that map has, I think this last year they had about 20 coffee shops. So it has 20 coffee shops that you can go to. And so over the next 6 weeks, you can, if you've purchased this trail map, you can go and get a free cup of coffee or whatever this different coffee shop is offering for free. They have had so much success with this. They have had corporations and sponsors so excited. They have an affiliation with a local TV channel that just loves this and has taken it on in promoting as well. But the cool thing for the organization is they have very little overhead. They have very little cost involved. They have very little actual time involved for this event. First year, it brought in about 15,000. This past year, the second year, 30,000. And they have great ideas for it to bring in even more over the years. They've already had they have bakeries that have called and said, hey, can you do a cupcake trail or a cookie trail or a pie trail? So there's all sorts of ways they could add to this. They haven't decided yet how they want to do that. But the great thing about this for the coffee places is that when someone comes in to get their coffee, about 60% of the time, they buy something additional. So they are giving that free coffee away, but they are selling more coffee and pastries as well. So just a great, fun, thinking outside the box kind of an event. So when you're thinking about an event, you need to establish your goals, obviously, and you want to think about the dollars to raise and the number of people attending. You can't have a dartboard approach about this. You really have to be realistic. So you're going to project what your potential revenue is. There's no true rule about this, but obviously your cost should never be more than the money raised. But you also need to know your expenses. You get quotes, you make smart decisions. You're going to think about what your ROI should be. And we'll talk about this one more in a little bit. But don't forget to establish goals that are more than just financial. I think so many times we think about fundraising in dollars and cents that you get that evening. But what about also you need to establish your goals, number of new donors. What's the average gift? And is your goal higher than your previous year? Number of reactivated donors or Maybe your also goals are a number of new sponsors or number of monthly donors. So set a lot of goals for yourself as you're establishing that, making that decision. And then you need to stay focused. I suggest for most of our clients, in for even not even during events, but at always having key messages. So a key message is just the main point of information that you want your audience to hear and understand and remember. And these little short summation sentences articulate what you do and why you do it and how you do it differently than maybe anyone else. But I think that you also need those key messages for your event. This will keep you consistent in your messaging with your vendors, with your sponsors, with your donors. So writing little key messages is a great way to help you stay focused. Okay, so our second P is planning. So pick a date. Can't be random. If you need to pick a date that's far enough out for you to realistically execute this event. I typically recommend 9 to 12 months in advance, depending on the type of event. There are some events that you really need to start even sooner than that. If you want this particular event to become an annual event, pick a date that you feel like can repeat over the years. So if it's the first Tuesday in October, make sure that that date seems to work consistently over the next few years. I also encourage you, when you're picking a date, when you're planning, check some local nonprofit calendars, community calendars, just to be sure that your date doesn't conflict with maybe a large existing event. So, for example, if a community is holding a large festival the last week in September, that may not be the best time for you to hold whatever event you might be having. So always make sure that you plan early and that you make sure that this date is the best date for your community as much as you can. So then let's talk about determining your timeline. So you need to take time to establish a realistic timeline. I think I've said realistic 2 or 3 times already in this webinar, because you really need to be smart. And you want to have a realistic timeline of tasks that are you're planning for this event. Google spreadsheets are helpful for outlining tasks, assigning team members, and then tracking what's done. But whatever tool that you use to set up your timeline, just be sure that you're, again, consistent. Another word I use a lot, in following the plan. You will, as you're kind of planning or looking at this and putting your timeline together, you're going to want to make sure you capture tasks that include pre-event planning, during the event timeline, and some post-event tasks as well. And I think the post-event tasks are something that get forgotten many times. You want to follow up with all of your follow-up with attendees is key. So you can't sideline that. You want to think about how you're going to communicate and thank them after the event, how you're going to pull them in before the event, and all of those marketing pieces. So we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes as well. Preparing the details. All right, there are so many details for an event, which I know you all have experienced that. You have to secure the venue or apply for permits if are needed, or contact your caterers or entertainment or speakers. That's just a few of the details needed. But having a committee of staff and volunteers is also much needed. So I suggest putting together that committee, and then think about establishing subcommittees to handle the following ideas. So logistics. You need to think about the nuts and bolts to holding this successful event. You're going to have venue, you're going to have food, AV, program materials, table placement, traffic flow within an wherever your venue is or outside, permits if you need, maybe even a plan B if it's an outside event, just to make sure. But don't forget things like laptops for checking in and Wi-Fi at the event and ability to give at the event with credit card, live streaming. You just have to consider that consider an event strategy, or excuse me, an event registration platform such as Give has, but also all of those things coming together and making it as easy as possible for the person coming in. They know where they're supposed to go, they check in quickly, and that the evening runs without a hitch. The second thing to think about when preparing the details and possibly establishing a subcommittee is volunteers. Most events need a lot of volunteers. So who will be the one that recruits and manages those volunteers? So make sure someone's assigned to that. Fundraisers. Obviously, you're going to have to ask for and secure financial and in-kind donations. Maybe get auction items, whatever it might be that you need to raise funds for this event. And we're going to talk more about sponsorships here in just a few minutes. But having a subcommittee of fundraisers is important. Invitees. Who should you invite based on your event? Obviously, you always leverage your current donor data, but who's going to be able to run those queries and help you select donors? And who else might you target? What groups of people could be potential attendees or donors? Focused on guest quality, not guest quantity, especially for galas and some major donor events. You really want to look at quality versus quantity, but you may have other events that it's all about the quantity. Naturally, some types of events are more suitable for certain audiences. And so you got to understand your audience, like we talked about earlier, and then how your event's going to cater to that audience. Another subcommittee would be marketers. You need to think about who will promote the event and how. So make sure that you're going to cross-channel as well. So I'm just going to lay out a few ideas for marketing. I'm sure that there are a lot more, but make sure some of them are very obvious. Make sure to add the event to your website. Obviously, that's quick and easy, and you might want to consider a header that directs a donor on how to get engaged, maybe whether it is to register or buy a ticket or a table or whatever it might be. But you might also want to create a branded registration page that might have videos or photos from the event in previous years. It would have details of the event, obviously. So that's just something more where the donor or those getting on to register understand, know all the details so that makes when they come to the event, they're ready. Word of mouth, obviously asking existing donors to invite family or friends, including encouraging sharing through their emails and social media. Thank you inserts. You could include an insert in every thank you receipt letter for the months prior to your event. It's a great way to get the word out, and that's especially to those people who donate to you during that time frame. You might want to plan a series of emails or possibly do text marketing. Text marketing has a 98% open rate. 98%. So you can start with a simple announcement. You can also think about including links for your registration site. You can also use text to give to increase your donations during the event. But again, know your audience. Text to give is probably not the best way to get a donation from a major donor. So again, know the audience. Increase awareness with a press release. A lot of times people forget about press releases with their event, but this will also help ensure that the media could attend when applicable. Possibly use paid advertising. This is, of course, dependent on your advertising budget, type of event. Maybe if you have a Google grant, you would use it for that. And again, knowing your audience, but if you're auctioning off a big car or a car or something, that might be a great way to target potential donors. You will market through flyers and posters and banners, direct mail, save the date cards or invitations, and then, of course, social media, Facebook, Instagram, peer-to-peer, if that's applicable for your event. I would highly suggest that you use videos and photos that focus on your storytelling of who you are. And then radio or TV slots. And then for a major donor event, face-to-face works the most. That works the best. So just trying to think of everything when preparing for your event. No detail is too small. So next, we are going to look at our third P, and that is prospecting. So whether your goal is to raise money or friends, or both, all events are an opportunity to share your organization's mission and vision. Make sure during your event, before and during and after, that you demonstrate how the donor support helps enhance your services. So for many of you, that means live testimonies from your current recipients of your services. Obviously, those can be incredibly impactful. Videos can be extremely impactful as well. But seize the chance to cultivate relationships by also thanking current donors, maybe honoring those who have gone above and beyond to support your work. You might want to highlight a current volunteer who has made an impact, or recognize people who are attending your event for the first time, or honor a long-term donor. Also, have time before the event starts to allow your staff and maybe some ambassadors that you have assigned to network with the attendees. I think that's important to build relationships, make people feel comfortable, gives you an opportunity to share as well. For a major donor event, I would suggest, especially if it's a large gala, check out who's attending and think strategically about how you seat people. So I have met with and talked to a client in years past, and one of the things that they would do at their major donor event when they knew who was coming is they would look at these donors or these potential donors through their wealth rating. And they would determine those people who they really wanted to make sure that they shook their hands, that they introduced themselves, or that they seated them at a table with possibly a board member or a staff member. So being very strategic at your event. Maybe celebrate milestones at the event. I know that QGIve, and they're going to talk a little bit about this later, but they have these live tools that include the ability to screencast the goal on a large screen while attendees are making the gifts and pledges. And so you see the progress instantaneously. Pretty cool. I love that. But don't forget to give your event sponsors what you promised. That's the final thing. Making sure that at your event, if you said you would share about that, make sure you do. All of these are ways to introduce yourself and prospect and get new people into the fold. We are going to jump now to number 4, partnerships. So select a media partner. Selecting a media partner for a community event is vital. This can be a local radio station or DJ, a television personality or media company. This can also be even at a gala or an auction. Obviously, having a personality there is a great way to partner. Choose a partner that's going to help you market your event also into the community. And remember, these can be sponsorships as well. They are volunteering their time or offering that ability that could be their sponsorship gift. Next, we're going to talk about soliciting sponsors. So corporate sponsorships are vital to having a successful event. And sometimes that's tough. You're wondering what to do, who to talk to, those kind of things. But target your past corporate donors first, obviously, and then you're going to start searching for new sponsorships every year. But you might want to consider establishing levels of sponsorships with varying exposure and marketing for those companies based on their giving levels. So a platinum or gold, silver, bronze, maybe. But offering different levels, get different promotions is a great way to get large sponsorship gifts. And remember that a sponsorship can be a lead gift. It could be underwriting the cost of the venue, or maybe someone wants to underwrite the cost of a meal or the expenses for the speaker. There's always that you can be a sponsor. The other thing to think about with sponsorships is in-kind sponsors. So donations of goods or services really can impact the bottom line for your event. So targeting businesses who typically may not be able to give a large financial gift. Maybe they're not a $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 level donor, but a florist maybe could donate all of the table arrangements, obviously. Our music group could donate their time to play while people are entering, or a security company may donate the manpower during a large outside event. You could look for a photographer or a videographer. Those are all great in-kind donations. And in exchange for that support, whether it's financial or in-kind, companies obviously expect to receive exposure, signage, and other perks before, during, or after the event. So just make it worth their while. And our last P is performance. So let's talk about evaluating. So you want to, when the event is over, evaluate your event. And that's one of the most important tasks that you can do. You need to identify what went well, what could have gone better, possibly ways to grow the event for the future. But you need to conduct this evaluation immediately after the event, because within a week after the event, because it's really fresh on everyone's minds. If you had volunteers or an event planning committee, you might want to also ask them for further feedback, and then also invite them to lunch to thank them for their help. Also do a SWOT analysis and inviting staff or inviting volunteers to share their opinions. Or consider sending event attendees, or maybe just a group of attendees, to a survey after the event. So feedback from your constituents is always highly valuable. And the last part of our performance is calculating the results. Remember to the measure of your event's success will be complex. So it's not usually just boiling down to one KPI. So make sure that you know your gross expenses, your net income, your overall ROI. This will help you to determine if you met your fundraising goal or not. A good expense ratio to aim for is 35% or less. So for every $100 raised, your organization spent $35 or less in expenses. Now, some events are going to be 50-50, and some events are going to be pennies on the dollar because every event is different. But knowing and thinking through what you want to goal, what your goal is going to be for ROI is important. And don't forget to calculate staff time and mileage and other expenses related to the event, because you want to make sure that you are capturing a true picture of what the event costs are. And make sure you know how many donors were in attendance. So do you have new prospects at the event? If so, did you collect their information? Can you contact them for follow-up communications? All of those things are important as you're building relationships and you're building new partnerships for your organization. And then knowing the purpose of your event and outlining a clear objective up front will help you determine if your event was a success. And my final slides here, celebrate. Don't forget to celebrate. Most fundraising or friend-raising events take dozens and dozens of hours to plan and execute. And it's likely that many people on your staff were involved in some ways to ensure that this event was a success. So you want to be sure to celebrate. You want to be sure to personally thank each of those people for their help and celebrate their efforts. You might also want to consider sending out a press release to let the community know if you hit your goals. You want to follow up with people who came to the event, maybe sending them email follow-ups, surveys, sending them a video. Those are all great ways to follow up with those donors. And again, don't forget to celebrate. So here's just a few summaries. Events play an important role in the fundraising mix. I know they can be time consuming. I know that they can be staff consuming, but finding the right signature event is what you need, and it's very important for your fundraising mix. Always consider others to do events for you. Obviously, if you can show up and grab a check and shake some hands, what a great opportunity for your organization. Money or awareness, pick one and focus. Not that you won't get both, but pick one and focus. And provide opportunities for prospects and volunteers and for building relationships. And make sure you evaluate and when you follow up and thank those who gave. So thank you so much for attending today. I'm going to jump back on here. I hope that you were able to maybe glean just a few ideas. I know we just had a short amount of time together, but if you have more questions, I know we're going to talk some questions, but also if you need any more information, here's our website.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shellie. Thank you so much for taking the time to put this all together and then for joining us today.
Yeah. You have it now?
Yeah, I can take over real quick.
Okay, perfect.
Here we go. Shellie did ask me if I could bring up just a little overview really quick of some of our QGIve tools. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, we have solutions for all sizes of nonprofits that include year-round fundraising tools, text giving, peer-to-peer fundraising, auction tools, and of course FunHub Live, as she mentioned in her presentation, a great tool to utilize for events if you take advantage. I know that thermometer that you can put on your donation pages, as you can allow people who are donating to track that in time. That's something you can put up on the screen at events too if you take advantage of it, and a great way to motivate attendees to keep on giving and help you reach your goals. I know we did say that we're going to launch into questions. Before we do that, I'm going to put a quick poll up on the screen for everyone. If you were signing up, you notice there's a little box for you to opt in to receive communication from BDI. If you didn't check off that box and would like the opportunity to do that now, just click on that poll and you can check yes there. But with that, I'll leave that up. Shellie, we do have a couple quick questions for you. Maggie Kissinger asked, can you provide an example of a key message for an event?
So a key message that's a great question. I appreciate that. A key message for an event I don't have any in front of me to read specifically to you, but what you want to make sure that your key message for your organizations are really talking about what you do, how you do it, and how you fund what you do. And so you have those three key messages that you always share and you're consistent with. When I'm talking about key messages for the event, it's talking about what your goals are. If it's a campaign for something specifically, make sure that you have written those kind of key messages out. So if I'm out talking to someone, let's say I'm one of your ambassadors or I'm a staff member, and I'm just happen to meet with somebody and I want to talk about this event, I am consistently saying what others are saying.
Fantastic. Maggie, I hope that answered your question. If you have any follow-ups to that, you can add that into the Q&A area or follow up in the chat as well. We had another attendee ask, how do you encourage people to take the post-event survey? We always share one out, but we get few who actually submit.
Yeah, you know what? That is not uncommon. I will just say I've heard that a lot. You know, one of the things that I've had different organizations do is ask people to do the survey, but also send them a $5 Starbucks gift card to do it. Maybe something like that as an incentive is a great way to get people more engaged, possibly.
Do you see a lot of improvement from those numbers when they incentivize it?
We have personally, yes, at our company, but also I have seen several nonprofits do that. Again, it's a $5 gift card. It's not expensive, but if they're getting something, so they're more likely to fill it out. So I have seen that work.
And then we have another question. As a newer and smaller nonprofit, what are the best ways to calculate potential revenue?
That's a tough one when you're new. You really want to, usually we're going to start small in an event. So I would love to talk to you. I don't know who you are, but I would love to visit with you and think through, maybe brainstorm what type of event you're having, because really every event can be so different in what the ROI is. But starting small with a smaller event for your smaller organization is the best way. But I'm sorry, I can't probably give you the best answer for that, but I would love to visit with you. We're going to have my email later as we sign off. So I would love to talk to you more about that.
And Shellie, if I can chime in here on that one, we see this a lot. You hear this a lot. What should we expect to earn off of this? It's a lot of revenue focused conversation, but we also have to remember some of the sides that you highlighted. You know, there is the acquisition side of it, there is the appreciation side of it, the awareness side of it. So while you're looking at the revenue as maybe the driver or what you need to get approval in a lot of cases, we can't forget about those other things, those other components of the event that really should be a part of that broader strategy. And I know the folks at BDI would love to get in on that broader strategy conversation. That's what they really bring to the table for us and our clients. So great question, and certainly something you should be thinking about, but just don't forget about the full, as you were displaying it, Shellie, the mix of the event and what you really want it to be from all of those perspectives.
Absolutely. I love that, because your ROI is not always the one KPI that you're looking at. Yes, you want to bring in income, but did you bring in new donors? Were you able to reactivate donors? Did you raise an average gift from donors? So all of those things are part of why you're doing the event and building those relationships. So thinking outside the box of that is great.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many events I've attended that have been kind of my first look into a nonprofit's mission. And that's been kind of the driving point for what keeps me engaged and keeps me wanting to come back and follow the nonprofit as they try and reach their goals. And then our next question, Wendy Aronson said she would love to hear more about the fundraising model for the coffee trail and how it gets tied back to the organization.
Absolutely. I would love to. I don't know that we have a lot of time to spend on going through that whole process, but again, would love to talk to you about it. It is such a great opportunity for the organization to have flyers up at all of these coffee shops before And during that 6 weeks, they have asked that the coffee shops the coffee shops are excited about this. And so their people, their staffs are also engaging in conversations or asking them, have they ever taken a tour? They've been really good about that. But they also have an opportunity for the person to maybe donate a donation box at all of these as well. So all of it is really turned back to the organization. It's a great event, and I think it's really going to grow for them. Like I said, they've only had 2 years, and it went from 15,000 to 30,000 in just that 2 years. But they are excited about the growth of this one.
That's fantastic. I'd be excited to see where that grows over the years.
And I think I love the idea of making it, they have bakeries calling and saying, let's make it a cupcake run or whatever. So, I'm not saying that they're going to have 10 of those, but it is kind of fun to think about some other opportunities like that. To get those small, and it gets those smaller businesses, those mom and pop businesses sometime involved. I honestly don't think they have a Starbucks that does it or any larger coffee shop. It's really the mom and pop ones that are excited about helping and being involved.
And I think you'll find too, some of those smaller businesses are going to be a little bit more friendly toward getting involved and engaging you on some of that. I know, every place is different, but in the past, I've just found the people who run those places are so excited at being able to get involved in missions like that, especially in their local communities.
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll give everyone just another minute. Think of any last questions you might have for Shellie. I know we've got her for a few more minutes, so take advantage of that. And I'll put up our last slide. So we just have some contact information for Q Giving in case you want to reach out. We also have Shellie's email up there in case you leave here. And then a question is on top of mind and you want to email it over to her. And then a final reminder that the session did count towards a continuing education credit for CFRE. So make sure you get that down on your tracking sheet for the year. We don't want you to miss out on that. Let me just do a final check. I don't think we have any more questions. Brendan, do you have anything else for today?
No questions, just another thank you, Shellie. This was great. Found myself, listening quite intently and trying to understand all the 5 pieces that you were bringing to the table. For the audience, I would encourage you, as for whatever it is that you need, reach out to our partners. BDI is a great agency. They work with a lot of our different clients and help them with their direct response digital engagement, and really drive a lot of success for our clients around those different campaigns that they do throughout the seasons of the year. So I know this wasn't Shellie's place to really pitch what they do, but that's my job, and I certainly believe in them as partners. They've shown time and time again that they really can move the needle for organizations in an event capacity or in the many other ways that they do. So thank you so much, Shellie. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and expertise with our audience, and looking forward to having you again.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time.
So much. And thank you everyone who took time out of your afternoons today to join us today. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
Bye. Bye.